Hates Tree. Today is July 28th, 2022. I am in upstate New York. It's the new moon. So I figured I'd pop on here and tell you a little bit about succession planting or fall crop planting as we do here in the Northeast. I think many of you are in Florida, so this is a little bit different than your climates, but you can totally and should plant in successions. My son is swimming, so you may hear some interesting sounds coming from the little farm pond here. I guess we can just do this. Here we are in our little farm pond. He's getting a little swimming in. That's our third of our field that we leave fallow. We try to do a third of the field every year. That's in buckwheat. Buckwheat stinks. It smells kind of like dog shit when it's flowering, so yuck. But it grows really fast. It's a great cover crop because it grows really fast. Then you can mow it down and it'll come back thicker the second time, right? So cover crops are great because they conserve moisture, they prevent runoff, they add biomass to the soil, they prevent beneficial microorganisms in the soil. So many good things. That's not what I was here to talk about today. I was talking about succession planting, which is what you would be doing more in those warmer climates like in Florida, and I would talk about fall crops here in the Northeast because right now is like a little past the cutoff for some fall crops like broccoli, cauliflower, things that take a little bit longer. Broccoli you can still get in because like a lot of broccoli varieties are like a 50-day variety. Excuse me, like 55 to 60-day varieties. But the thing to keep in mind is when you read those dates on the packets of seeds, that's in like optimal conditions, right? So that's like before we start to lose light after the summer solstice. That's when there is like full guns blazing, 12 plus hours of sunlight every day. I'm sorry. It's really funny. So a 65-day broccoli, maybe 65 days when you plant it in March, but when you plant it in late July, depending on what the weather does, it may take more like 75, 80 days, right? Because you have less light, there's less ideal conditions. So those are things to keep in mind. But okay, so everybody's like, zucchini, I've got a bajillion of them, I only want one plant. Okay, cool, totally. One plant for one household is probably great on zucchini. But what you want to do is plant a couple seeds every, I'd say 2 to 3 weeks if you're working with zucchini. Greens like lettuces, if you eat a ton of lettuce like me, then I want access to like, at least a dozen, 15 heads of lettuce a week, maybe 20. So instead of planting 2 flats, or many flats are 72 cells, right? So instead of planting like 140 heads of lettuce all at once, thinking that's going to get you through the season, you want to plant like 25, 30 at a time, and each 2 to 3 weeks keep planting them. Obviously the crops, if you're planting kale, you only need to plant it like 2 or 3 times, right? Because it's a perpetual plant that really doesn't lose steam. But to replenish your plant throughout the season is a nice thing because they do peter out. Obviously lettuce heads where you're chopping, it's like one and done. You want to plant those maybe every week. Radishes, I don't know, radishes, like some things peter out in the heat too. So if you are in Florida, you want to especially get yourself in a good rotation because in the heat, things really kind of like peter out and they want to go to seed fast. When they're stressed, they want to go to seed, and your lettuce tastes like shit when it wants to go to seed, right? So here we just finished planting, we didn't finish. We're about halfway through planting our fall crops. We're a little bit late. So we already got the broccoli and the cabbage. we don't really grow onions here, but you would maybe put another fresh eating onion, not a storage onion. You would have already had to have those in quite a while ago if you were trying to do storage onions. They are very dependent on the light, so once we fall past that 12 hours of sunlight a day, then they are like knowing it's time to storage onion up. So cabbage, broccolis. I mean, we're putting our last kales in right now. Flowers, like we plant flowers in succession, zinnias, sunflowers, like we do those one and done cut sunflowers. We plant those every week. Bok choy, Yucchina Savoy, fennel. There's so many things that you can still be planting right now. Lettuce all the time. We've already planted the seeds. They've germinated. We just need to put them in the ground. When I say planted, I'm not talking about direct seeding necessarily. Most of the crops that we plant get planted in a greenhouse to germinate, and then they go in the field. So we are just finishing getting our last crop of summer squash, zucchinis and yellow squash, things like that, in the ground. So there's a lot you can do. If you want to really extend your harvest, space out your seeding. That's the short story. And then space out your planting. Oftentimes when it's really warm, you just want to spritz your things with water in the middle of the day so they don't bolt and go to seed so fast. And if you have any, not in the shade, but maybe one side of your house is cooler than the other one, maybe like the heat of the street comes off one side of your house, plant on the other side. Do what you can to not compromise the amount of light, but if you can modulate the amount of heat at all in your garden, that would benefit you in those warmer climates as well. If you have a sprinkler system, that's cool. Put it on a timer, just spritz away, 2-3 times a day when it's really hot. But really those plantings, not relying on one plant to stretch you through the whole season, but being able to, this is a very important part about gardening and being a divine feminine being, is that we are like Kali. We embody both the creator and the destroyer. So this was a little hard when I came to gardening, is that sometimes you just gotta like yank that shit if it's on its way out and put the new in, right? Sometimes you just have to know when to let go and start again, right? And these are such wonderful lessons for life. Like I think about that when I'm pulling, something out that I'm like, man, yank it, it's just gotta go. You just think about those situations that are no longer serving you. They just gotta go. Goodbye, right? So anyways, that was a tangent. I hope you found this informative, and I hope you get some fall crops in or some succession plantings in, because it truly will make your gardening experience much more enjoyable, less of a disappointment, and it'll provide you with food in a realistic timeline. So have a great day.